Hey guys, Cheryl Nembhard here, and welcome to On the Path podcast. Listen, it's Women's Month, and I'm going to be celebrating all month some sheroes and girl bosses that have really inspired me. First up, we're going to be speaking with global faith leader, national speaker, executive producer, and host of See Her Love, a national faith talk show here in Canada. I'm speaking about Melinda Estabrooks, and we're going to be talking about her brand new book, Always Know, a collection of inspiring words and stories from over 50 contributors. In this conversation, it's one of the most real girl talks I've had in a while. We're talking about overcoming shame, finding hope, choosing joy and freedom, how to be kind to each other, and the importance of allyship, and so much more. Such a good conversation. Join us on all available podcast platforms or subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch the show over there. I will see you on the path. Oh my goodness, Melinda, this is, I think to have you on the other side of this interview, I can't tell you how long I've waited for this.
Oh, my heart's about to burst. I love this. I mean, you can even tell, Cheryl, because I'm in a casual, comfy sweater in my living room because I'm ready, girl. I just want to have girl talk, hang out with you. I am so excited to be here with you. Really, this is an honor, and I'm like bursting. My heart is bursting.
Love it. I love it. And for those that are just kind of tuning in, and if you didn't hear in the intro, I just have to say it again. I have the honor and the privilege of journeying with this visionary in an incredible national faith-based talk show called See Her Love, which is right across Canada. And I've been an OG 6 seasons in, and she just keeps getting better and better, and the show keeps leveling up. We're going to talk about so much today. Melinda, I'm so thankful that you're here. Listen, the truth is, I'm a real fangirl because I know your life story. I know your journey. I know what it took to get here. Here you are, you're an executive producer, national speaker, faith leader, visionary of this entire show, See Her Love, which I love because we are known for like honest conversation, tough topics, social justice, inclusion. There's nothing left off the table. You go for it all. What made you decide to do such a bold show? I mean, that's what people love, is that they know we're going to tackle it with wisdom and grace, but we are going to speak about it. What made you decide to do the show, and how did that come to be?
Great question, Cheryl. Thank you so much for the gush. And I really appreciate it. I really, honestly, we'll talk about this later. Just so appreciate you in my journey as well with See Here Love. But how it started was I was on a show, which you remember from 2006 to 2013, called Full Circle. It was the first actually Christian women's talk show that was airing on 100 Huntley Street, the longest daily running TV show. And we were the Friday edition, then we became daily on Yes TV. And when it ended, 7 years, 500 interviews, we ended that women's show. There was a gap. At that time, Cheryl, a number of women's organizations and conferences in Canada at that time ended as well. And I remember having a conversation with a number of women. They were like, what next in Canada? Mm-hmm. Who's going to kind of bring women together to share story and encourage the next generation? And that seed was planted. It was like, honestly, the Holy Spirit, God just kind of like downloaded. It was like an aha moment. And I remember thinking, who is going to do it? And I remember really clearly this voice saying, you. And Cheryl, listen, I have no real kind of production background. I mean, I worked at a show called Listen Up Now Context with Lorna Dewick, a faith leader here in Canada. And I was always just learning on the job, but I'd never taken the helm, been the visionary leader for any show. I kind of worked in the background most of my sort of media and broadcast career. And so I was like, what do I do? And so I just started, but it really was because there was a gap, there was a hole, and a need needed to be filled. And I just was like, okay, I'm going to step into it. I mean, it was terrifying. I'd never done a web show, done any budgeting for it. And the process of working on a white paper and getting funding and getting all that is a long story, but that's really how it happened. It was just God spoke. I took a pause. I cried, and I'm like, I'm going to step in, encourage, and do it. And here we are today.
Wow. And what have you seen the show doing? What has been the feedback and the response to See Her Love?
Yeah, well, first, I mean, it was a web show to reach sort of millennials and next generation. And now we're on every platform, from, television, podcast, radio, video streaming, YouTube. I mean, it's crazy. I think, wow. I mean, See Here Love really came out of my heart. I write this in my new book, Always Know, that when I was speaking, as you had mentioned, a national speaker, I would speak, and, women, men, young people come to me all the time and just say, thank you so much for sharing your story, because we have the same, stories. And we didn't know that, we are seen, heard, and loved by God. And over, Cheryl, it was like, we're not seen. People look at me, but don't really look at me. They look through me. I'm not heard. My voice story doesn't matter. And I don't feel loved by my spouse or by God or by my family. And so, hearing that for 20 years as I've been speaking, it made sense that the show would be See Here Love, that would be the focus of what we talk about. And I mean, those were hard conversations with young people across Canada to say, you don't feel seen, heard, and loved? What? And it was just this reminder. God was like, make sure that you have a platform where you are continually telling that truth, that they are seen, heard, and loved.
Oh, I love that. And I love what you said about all platforms and how it's just taking shape. And now a new medium. Hello,
oh my
somebody.
goodness.
Hello, somebody.
There it is.
Congratulations on the new book, Always Know. It's a collection of stories, guys, and learnings from 50 diverse See Here Love guests and friends, from as far as British Columbia all the way to New Brunswick. And it's so exciting to see the See Here Love brand expand in this way. I'd love to ask you, why a book? Why now?
It came out of the pandemic last year, Cheryl. We're sitting in the summer going, what is this pandemic going to do for broadcast, for content, for anything? It was really a moment of, we don't know what's going to happen. And I remember sitting with my See Here Love team. We were talking about, what are ways to still connect with people? What do we have in our hand already that we don't need to recreate or try to make happen? And one of my team members said, well, we have all of these blogs and devotionals, from 6 seasons, hundreds of them. Why don't we curate them, collect them, and put them together? And from there came a book. And I'm telling you, I mean, I don't know if people know this, but for every show, an episode of See Here Love, there's an accompanying blog and devotional, 1 or 2. We have hundreds of blogs. I mean, Cheryl, yours, co-host blogs, guest blogs. And so we put this together, and we put it together because we were like, we found out in a marketing conference that 50% of sort of young millennials read. I mean, I don't say 50%, but what I mean is that I always thought they want to engage in 2-minute YouTube clips or 1-minute little sound bites. But what we're finding is next generation love to read. They love to read blogs. And so what we are being told is you need to have visual and content that way, but also need written words too. And so we put it together. We chose the first 50, which is really hard to do, but we chose it based on themes that kept coming up of what women and men were saying. These are the themes that we want you to address.
And let's talk about that. 100 contributions, so many blogs, so many amazing stories and things that have been unpacked, but you chose 50. How did you choose the 50? How did you make that decision? I can't even imagine.
What do I say? They're my favorites? No, I don't want to say that. They're my favorite people? No. How it happened was we kind of started with themes. So I started with, I love this idea that you are loved and valued by God as a promise. Then I liked the theme of being brave, leading well, overcoming shame, choosing joy, living an open-handed life. Those are like 7 themes that keep coming up over and over and over again at See Here Love in the show. Or the most response when we do that show, people would write in and go, thank you for helping me be brave. Thank you for giving me tools to lead well. So we kind of put those themes in first, those 7. And then we kind of looked at the shows and said, okay, those shows and those blogs work into these themes. And that's really how we chose it. And I mean, here's the thing, I always say this to people. It wasn't like we were like, we need to choose diversity. Let's look hard and figure out who can be in the book or on the show. Right. It's already there. See Here Love has always been about ensuring that we have a diverse panel of ethnicities and ages and thoughts. And so it was really easy to do that, but that's how it worked. And it was a really easy put together. I mean, sure, I love it because after every blog, there's a takeaway and reflection, and every blog is connected with an episode. So when they read your blog and they're like, that's amazing. Your episode is there and they can watch you talk about it even more,
Oh,
which I
so
think is really
sweet.
unique for a book, right? That
Yeah.
every, blog has an episode connected to it.
Oh, I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Well, listen, I could not have you on this show, on the path, which is really the idea that we learn from one another's journey.
Mhm.
And that our trials and our storms are our greatest teachers. I have to ask you some personal questions because you
Of
have such
course.
yeah, you have such an incredible life and such wisdom. So let's have some real girl talk, but maybe we'll take a sip of our tea. Let's do that
Yes, let's do that. Let me
just to
just
show people it's
Mm,
the real deal over here with Melinda.
okay.
Mm,
Perfect.
I'm sipping some green tea. What do you got?
Some yummy dark roast coffee.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So listen, real talk now. So 2020 and 2021.
Hmm.
What a challenging year. What a hard year for so many people. There's been such loss on every side. People are, struggling with depression, have lost their businesses, their homes. We've had natural disasters already just a couple of days ago in Texas. It's just been a really hard year. And this book, Always Know, for me, I feel it comes at such a perfect time to lift the spirit. But I'd love to know, what's your hope for the reader of the book when you think about what's going on right now, and how would you love to see those stories carry forward?
Great question, Cheryl. Wow, my hope. So I know this sounds so simple, but we made the book so that the blogs and chapters were short. We know people don't have, sort of the capacity for long reading. I've been hearing that a lot. So they're short,
Yeah.
they're strong, powerful reminders of who God is and who they are
Mhm.
with the takeaway and reflection. I think the hope is that people already have been getting people saying, this has been great, Melinda, because it's been busy and I've been really exhausted, but I can access one blog and that's enough for my day. So it's really it's that this book, Cheryl, is about hope, but also forcing people to just pause and ponder and reflect and hopefully take away just one thing. And I'm not saying do it daily. I mean, people are like, well, should I do it daily? I'm like, no, you do it when you can. I think the book is also about kindness.
Mm,
This book is about being kind to yourself,
yeah.
being kind to others, which I think we really need to, kind of dig into, especially in this year.
Yeah.
I've had to tell a number of my girlfriends to speak kindly to themselves because they've been so hard on themselves these
Yeah.
past days and weeks. And so I really think that this book is a kindness book. It's a hope filled book, and it's also just practical tools. I mean, even in your blog, Cheryl, I mean, it's like, how to be courageous, what it's going to take in as you change your mindset, as you step out. So it's really practical and short. And it's not long and drawn out and exhausting to read, but really short. And if you're like, I don't want to read, what's the episode Cheryl's in? I'll just look at that episode on YouTube and just watch her instead. So we're trying to help people access hope and kindness and goodness and practical tools in a very easy way. That's my hope. That's my
Yeah.
hope for the book.
So it could, and for someone who can only take a couple of spoonfuls at a time, it could be
Yes.
a great daily pick me up. It could be a great devotional if they want
Yeah.
to use it that way.
Perfect.
I
Yes.
love that. So let's talk about you, Melinda. Let's talk about like how you have been working through all of this stuff. So as we said, we're living in a really anxiety inducing time. We don't need to go through the grocery list, but let's just do a little quick catch up, shall we?
Sure.
Global catastrophes, pandemics, racial tensions, natural disasters, election issues, and more. As you look over, Melinda, as you look over this crazy time of 2020 and 21, so what are some of the biggest lessons that you would say personally you've learned through these really tough times that you could share?
Wow. Good questions. I'll start with the one I just mentioned about kindness. There are days I wasn't kind to myself and others. When you get frustrated and you get angry and you feel lost, you tend to lash out with the people that you love the most and are closest to you.
Mhm.
So I've had to really work that out, Cheryl. I mean, with my husband, Chris, and just how we talk with one another, how we are with one another. And kindness is a big thing. as far as just with other people. And then again, kindness to me, like I've been hard on myself. Like, why haven't I? Why didn't you? Why can't you? Why didn't you speak up? Why didn't you take more rest? Like just like hounding myself on the things I haven't done or couldn't do or didn't do. It's not helpful at all, you know? And so I've had to really kind of step back and really speak kindly, speak promises of God, know who I am. So that's been really important. You know, Cheryl, there's been a lot, I think for me, it's been listening. You know, I think in that moment when we were going through Black Lives, you know, Matter, that at that moment last year, and you put out a video for leaders to speak up, say something. It was a time for me, I realized, to listen. You know, I speak a lot, I talk a lot. And when I talk a lot sometimes and speak a lot, I don't listen and I kind of move ahead and I'm not hearing what's going on. And you really, honestly, when you did that, it really kind of shook me to say, I need to listen. I need to be engaged, listening, leaning into the issues. What are people saying that know more about things than I do, that are in it than I am? And I need to listen. And listen intently, and then listen with the purpose of action and doing something. Listening is one thing, but listening without doing is a completely, you know, other thing. So that's been something, more listening. And I think I've had to be more quiet too. I mean, as an extrovert, you know, Myers-Briggs, ENFJ, all the, you know, all the Enneagram 7s, all those things, I'm that level. And so I've really had to quiet myself and slow myself down. That's been hard, but I mean, a pandemic forces you to do that.
Wow.
And it's scary, Cheryl, because then you're by yourself and you're with yourself and you're like, do I like myself? Because there's a lot of time with myself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
We're faced with ourselves. Yeah.
So I did do some self-examination, like, what don't I like about myself? Like when I'm sitting here as Melinda, without the cameras on, without anything to do, without producing anything, do I like myself? Who am I? I mean, those are some deep, hard questions I was faced with. So I think the learning this year was a lot about, you know, being
I just got goosebumps. I literally just got goosebumps on that last part. And can we just like camp for a minute? Totally unscripted, but the big question, who are we without all the stuff?
Yes. Like that gives me goosebumps too, because I think our society and culture, you know, raises up people who produce a lot, who can bring value to the world. And what if you don't? What if you're tired and exhausted and you're just tapped out, or you're dealing with grief and loss and you just can't do anything, you're feeling depressed? Are you still valuable? Are you still worthy? We know that with God, but for others and society, that's a struggle. I think, I will be honest, I think a lot of my life has been about production and doing. I mean, if I can be so honest, like the harvest is plentiful, Cheryl. Workers are few. So if you're a worker, you better work. You better work it. And I get that, but I also think that's been to the detriment of a lot of us as Christian leaders, because we have driven ourselves to that and not been quiet and listening and leaning into really what God's saying and what are the needs that really need to be addressed versus everything. If I can be honest with you about
this is such a good conversation. I knew it would be, guys. No one does real talk like Melinda. My goodness. Wow, what great lessons you've learned. And I know that we were kind of going through our own list, checking off, going, yep, that's me. Yep, that's me. And a lot of these sort of bigger themes you have in the book as well. I understand that there's 7 themes. Is that right? Can you walk us through what they are and kind of like how they came to be?
Yeah. I mean, the first one is know that you're loved and valued by God. I mean, it's shocking. I mean, so many people don't know that. It you know, I think when you go and speak, Cheryl, when I've gone and, you know, spoken to women's groups, you know, what comes up with women, you know, whether it's trauma or abuse or shame and things. And then that kind of like trickles into, well, I'm not loved or valued. What can I offer with a past I've had? How can I be loved when I have done this or that's been done to me? And so the first chapter is really like, no, you are loved and valued by God. In all your brokenness and all your ness, you are loved and valued by God. And so that's it. It's a great chapter where we affirm over and over and over again, you are loved and valued. No matter what, you are loved and valued. And that was really important for me to ensure that people got that, knew it. And then it kind of was like, rooted down into them. And so those devotionals are so affirming. Then there's live an open-handed life. People are like, what does that mean? I said, because I am a control freak, Cheryl. I control things. I hold things very tightly. We've had many shows, remember, like what's in your hand, being open-handed. And it's the sense of like opening your hand, which is so scary, and saying, okay, God, where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to say? And it's like letting go of control and just letting God direct you. I think a lot of us followers of Jesus need to live that way. I think we miss a lot of opportunities because we think this is the right way, or we want to control our situation in our life. And God is like, but you don't see the beauty of what I can do when you sort of like just walk out in faith and let me do my thing. So that's a great chapter about what that means. It's terrifying, but what that means to live an open-handed life. Third is overcoming shame and finding hope. Big one. Oh, wow. We talked a lot about that on the show, right? Like shame, man, that has kept a lot of us, a lot of women down from doing the work that God has called us to living like a full life and finding hope, as we sort of like work through our shame and finding freedom. Then choosing joy and freedom. I think that's been a big one too in our show, is that joy is important. Choosing joy every day is good for us. It's something that God wants for us to choose joy in every difficult circumstance. And so that's a great chapter on how to do that. And then be brave. That's where your blog is in, Cheryl. And it's just like how to be brave, how to step out in courage, how to kind of let go of fears and walk into, opportunities. And then loving your neighbor, big one. This really came out of last year. Wow. Inclusion, diversity, speaking up, loving your neighbor. Like that's a big chapter where a lot of voices are like, this is what we're doing. This is what we didn't do. And now we know we have to. This is what God is calling us to do, how to love our neighbor. And then leading well. How to lead well in a time of a pandemic and crisis, and how to lead yourself well so that you can lead others. So, I mean, if you think about it, these are a lot of the topics that we have talked about for 6 seasons at See Her Love, but also the topics that women and men have said, these are the ones that we really want resources and tools to do. So I'm really proud of them. I resonate with them. When I was choosing them, I'm like, oh, these are such good words from so many good people on these great topics. So
it's an incredible, it's so incredible that there's something literally for everyone at every season of their life, every moment of their life. There's an encouraging word, a wise word found in here. I encourage everyone, guys, we're talking about Always Know, the incredible project coming out of See Her Love with Melinda Estabrooks. It's a collection of inspiring words and stories from all of the See Her Love guests and friends and bloggers. Really something I think every person should have handy when they're going through any of those particular moments in life, right?
Yeah.
So perfect. Well, listen, speaking of See Her Love, girl, tearing it up. Let's talk about it. 6 seasons. And I have the privilege of, I get to wear OG on my chest.
Yes.
So it pumps me up every time. And I feel like in so many ways, I've watched, we talked about earlier, the web show. I remember us let's take a little trip down memory lane, sitting at a table, green screen, these sort of manual, automatic cameras trying to pick us up, tons of mistakes, bloopers galore.
Oh my goodness. And that ugly tablecloth that was always wrinkled because I didn't have a steamer.
In the kitchen set.
Kitchen set that was so random and horrible. A fan blowing because we were getting hot. Like, and you could hear the whirring. Like it was.
all of it. And it's so funny because in so many ways, also green, didn't know what we were doing, trying to just make it work. But you were burning with this sort of God idea, this vision, and it amazed me every time, every season, Melinda, how you always saw the big picture. And we were sort of trying to navigate through the weeds, and you're like, it's this way, and charge, right? And we're following you, and you're chopping stuff down. And here we are 6 seasons later, and it has grown like exponentially, blowing people's minds. And we're just getting started.
Yes.
I just want to say that again. You guys don't even know, like, it's just like God is just beginning to really, like, all the things you saw in your head are really now coming to pass. I'd love to ask you, like, speak on that. Anything we just shared, and where's
Oh,
it going from here?
Sure. I love that you are OG, because I mean, how we met was that, we were both speaking at a conference. We didn't even know each other.
Yeah.
And somehow, in God's awesome way, we ended up sitting beside each other and started sharing. And I remember looking at you going, man, wow, this woman, Cheryl, has wow.
Thinking the
So
same thing about you, actually.
yeah, right. We were saying, I'll never forget that. And then how you came on my podcast way back then. And, wow. I sometimes get emotional thinking about it, because I can't believe 4 years later, yeah, where See Hear Love is at. I can't believe just what God has done with this little show. It is still growing. But I think it's where it is like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. But then there's a part of me, Cheryl, that's like, but I can believe it. Because when God's in it, that's what he does, right? Because I didn't know how to do anything. This is why I say to everybody, sometimes the best thing is, yeah, make your plans, but then, you know what? Then let God kind of do all the rest and connection, because you can't manufacture some of the things that have happened. I can't manufacture them. They were literally like, a person came and said, I heard, or this happened. I was praying, Melinda, and this is why I'm doing this. Like, it's wild. And I think that's what life with Jesus is supposed to be. Like, you kind of like make the plans, have an open-handed, live life open-handedly, and then let God kind of like fill in the rest with people and just things. And sometimes it takes a while. I mean, I was rejected for this show. I had to sit on it for 3 years because I was like rejected in such a painful way when I pitched it. And I was just like, it was a no. And 3 years later, I got an opportunity to then pitch it back to, Lorna Duke, who was the CEO at that time of Crossroads Global Media. And that's how it happened. But I can't believe it. I think that, I don't know. It's funny. Somebody was like, what's going to happen in the next couple of years? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I have some idea, but it's scary. But I think sometimes that's the best way. I mean, a lot of what happened in season 6 during a pandemic honestly came from silence and quiet, and God literally downloading ideas, book, a takeover of 4, people who've never done media, to give them an opportunity to take over my chair, coast to coast across Canada, series, it just kept going and going. And those were ideas that I never thought of.
Contributors as well.
And contributors, yeah. And you doing your Love Dakota, exactly. Contributors too. I mean, these were ideas I didn't even have 3 months ago, almost going into another season. And it was just like, I'm in a pandemic. God, what do you want? And then it was just like download. So I'm hoping that happens as we go into season 7. But I think it will continue to, be about diverse voices. I've got shows coming up where I've not met any of these people that are going to be on some panels ever. They're Canadians. I've never met them. They've been all recommended. So I love that some of these shows continue to be people I don't know.
So good.
Because there's so many great voices, Canadian voices. So yeah, I think that is where I'm kind of sitting right now and saying, okay, God, what's next? Another book? I don't know. When things open, like a conference, that would be great. Like, open.
The word right there, conference, girl.
I know, exactly. That's what I'm hoping, and have ideas for again, we've had dreams, Cheryl, that we're sharing stage and doing conferences for women. So that's my dream. And I'm just like, step by step, day by day, being faithful and saying, God, whatever you want, I'll follow you and go.
So good, guys. One of the best ways I can celebrate Women's Month is to talk to the girl bosses, the sheroes in my life, and Melinda Estabrooks is absolutely 100% one of them. Melinda, thank you for taking the time. I've got like one more question and then a surprise question for you.
Okay.
The first one is just how do we track? How do we track with everything? How do we get a hold of the book? Sure. How do people find See Hear Love? Please share all of that.
Oh, thank you. SeeHearLove.com. And for the book, it's /always know. So the book title. So SeeHearLove.com/always know. You can get the book. You can sign up for our book launch team. You can actually see what episodes every author in the book is on. And so we've made that available. You can just click and watch their show. We've got downloads for the book, like so many great things. So SeeHearLove.com/always know is pretty much, Cheryl, the way to kind of connect with the book. But then YouTube and podcast and Instagram, Facebook is all just See Hear Love. Very simple. And you can follow us, write us, DM us, all that kind of fun stuff. And we'd love to engage with you.
Great. And what about you, hon? How do we find you?
Oh, Melinda Estabrooks.
You.
Yeah, Melinda Estabrooks, Insta, Facebook. That's the best way. I love getting messages. I respond. Like a lot of people are like, is that somebody else responding? It's me. I respond. So I would love to, hear from people. And if there's show ideas or guest ideas, that's the best way to kind of connect is through Facebook and Instagram with me. Melinda Estabrooks. I don't think there's another Melinda Estabrooks right now in the world.
So good. That's like my last name, Nembhard. So rare. I love it. Well, listen, it's time for your surprise question.
Oh, okay.
And I end every podcast with this question. Every guest gets the opportunity to answer. It's a fill in the blank.
Okay.
Just when you reflect on this incredible project here of Always Know, when you reflect on the book, all that it means, what your hope is for it to do, just finish the sentence. It's time for what? So it's time for what? And you'll just answer by saying it's time for blank.
How many blanks do I get?
Just
one?
As many as you'd like.
Okay.
Just start with time for.
Okay. It's time for kindness. I said this to you before, Cheryl, but it's time for kindness for yourself and towards others. It's time for pause, which for me is self-care, a time to kind of like recalibrate, see how you're doing. Do you like yourself? A time to kind of pause. And then I think it's time for listening as we learn. And then it's time for partying. I know this sounds crazy, but I think even in the middle of a pandemic and it's hard, we need to find the fun and party. I put on my boa. Chris and I, my husband, will dance as he's playing the guitar. I have parties on, Zoom. I know that's but we do what we do. Anything to just have fun and party and find those places to just fun, scream, and dance.
I love it. I love it. And now hold on, because I didn't.
Okay.
Coming up on the rear here. We're gonna flip it.
Oh, okay.
So what is it not time for? What is it not time for?
Wow. It's okay. That's a really good one. I was thinking about this and I was like, what is it not time? I mean, there's so many not time fors, right? It's not time for sitting back on the sidelines and doing nothing. That whole, it's not time for being a bystander.
Oh.
Okay. It is time in your sphere, in where you are at. It is time to stand, speak up, be an ally. So when I say it's not time to be a bystander, I'm kind of going, it's time for Cheryl. So I kind of flipped it back and I'm flipping back, but it's not time for being a bystander. No more. You must make a stand, be a voice, extend grace, help. It's time now for action. I think more than ever, and I'm getting all riled up now, but this pandemic is really like pointing at us to say, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Because before we were so busy, we're busy doing everything.
Yeah.
We're too busy to do that and engage. We're too busy to serve, give, speak up, write about. But the pandemic, I think, has really said, whoa, now I'm going to take everything away. No more excuses. No more being a bystander. Now it's time to go and do. And that's why I'm so proud of you, Cheryl, because wow, I mean, you were doing it before, but this pandemic, it's like, I just saw you rise in all the grief and loss and just, for you, I have seen you sort of rise up in this place of like, in something I've never seen before. It's like you kind of like Phoenix coming up. And I have really loved seeing you and other women take a pandemic and crisis and just like, wow, take it and make something beautiful and wonderful out of it. So I just wanted to say that to you as well.
Amen, sis. Melinda, I love you so much. Thank you so much. This has been more than I could even ask for, more than you can ask for. And listen, I have a personal request. I usually sign off, but I would love for you to sign off in our See, Hear, Love way to all our listeners.
Thank you, Cheryl. Well, for all of On the Path listeners and viewers, always know that you are seen, heard, and deeply loved by God.
Thank you so much, Melinda.
Bye.